Daniel, many of us have heard that old advice about eating 6 small meals a day. It was supposed to be the key to keeping our metabolism going, or the best way to manage hunger as we get older. I think many of our viewers, myself included, have tried it at some point.
Absolutely. It's advice that's been around for a long time. But what if that very habit, the one we thought was so healthy, is actually a bit of a hidden trap? What if it could be making us feel sluggish, gain weight, and perhaps even age a bit faster? That can be a tough pill to swallow, especially when we've been trying so hard to do the right thing for our health.
It really can. So, what are we diving into today? It sounds important.
It is Laura. Today, we're going to talk about something crucial: why it might be time for many of us to reconsider the 6 meals a day approach. We'll be exploring what I call the hidden insulin trap and how it might be accelerating the aging process. For years, the idea of constantly fueling our bodies seemed wise, almost like a way to conserve energy by always topping it up. But new understandings, especially for those of us over 60, suggest this approach could be doing more harm than good.
That's a significant shift in thinking. So, understanding how our bodies change with age is key here.
Precisely. Recognizing how our bodies, particularly our insulin response, change as we get older is a vital first step towards regaining energy, managing weight effectively, and truly supporting our long-term health. It's so important to understand why this shift in perspective matters.
So, what can our viewers expect to learn from this discussion?
Well, in this video, we'll look at exactly how frequent eating can affect your insulin. We'll discuss what that means for your body as you age and why it might be contributing to chronic health problems. More importantly, we'll talk about simple, practical adjustments you can make. Not drastic diets, but sensible changes to help you feel better, more vibrant, and in control. And there's a particular aspect to this, related to how our cells naturally repair themselves, that might really surprise you and change how you view meal timing altogether.
That sounds incredibly helpful. I'm sure many will find this valuable.
We hope so. And on that note, if you find value in videos like this that offer life-changing advice specifically for this stage of life, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring more useful content to people like you, who are navigating these years with grace and health in mind.
Well said. So, where do we begin with this graze all day habit? How did it become so popular?
That's a great starting point. Let's call our first point the graze all day habit. Where did it come from? Many of us, perhaps like a friend of mine, Margaret, developed this habit of eating small, frequent meals or snacking throughout the day. Margaret is in her late 60s, very health conscious. She'd prepare little bags of crackers, a piece of fruit here, a yogurt there, believing she was stoking her metabolic fire and keeping her blood sugar stable, just as magazines and even some health professionals recommended years ago.
I remember that advice very clearly. She genuinely thought she was doing the best thing for herself.
She did. And it's true, that advice was incredibly prevalent. For certain specific medical conditions, or for athletes, it might have its place. But for many of us, especially as we age and our bodies process things differently, constantly asking our digestive system to work, and more specifically, constantly signaling our pancreas to release insulin, can become a real problem. Margaret, despite her best efforts, was feeling more tired than ever, struggling with stubborn belly fat, and her doctor had even started mentioning her blood sugar was a little high. She was doing what she thought was right, but it wasn't giving her the results she wanted.
That sounds so frustrating, and I'm sure many can relate. Does this sound familiar to you? Have you ever followed the eat little and often mantra, believing it was the best path to health? We'd love to hear about it in the comments below.
Yes, please do share. Now let's move to our second point. Understanding insulin, the body's key storage hormone. So, what's the big deal with insulin? Let's break it down simply. Insulin is a crucial hormone produced by your pancreas. Its main job is to help move glucose, sugar, from your bloodstream into your cells, where it can be used for energy. Think of it like a key that unlocks the cell door to let glucose in. When you eat carbohydrates, and to a lesser extent protein, your blood sugar rises, and your pancreas releases insulin to manage it.
That makes sense. So, with frequent eating, like Margaret's example of toast, then a banana, then lunch, then nuts and raisins, then dinner, and maybe a healthy cookie, her insulin was working overtime?
Exactly. Each of those eating occasions, even small ones, signaled her pancreas, release insulin. Her insulin was constantly on call. The problem is, when your cells are constantly bombarded by insulin, they can start to become less sensitive to its signals. This is called insulin resistance. It's like if someone kept knocking on your door all day, every day. Eventually, you might start ignoring the knock.
So the key doesn't work as well anymore? And I imagine that must be incredibly frustrating for someone like Margaret, who thinks she's doing everything right, yet isn't seeing the results. It's a feeling many of us can probably identify with in different areas of our health journey.
Precisely. And when your cells become resistant, your pancreas tries to compensate by pumping out even more insulin to get the job done. This state of high insulin or hyperinsulinemia is the real hidden trap. It doesn't just mean your body has trouble managing blood sugar. It also tells your body to store fat, especially that stubborn belly fat, and it can prevent your body from burning stored fat for energy. It's a vicious cycle that can be hard to break if you're constantly eating.
It makes you wonder, have you ever thought about how often your body is actually in a fed state versus a fasted or resting state throughout the day? That's something many of us probably overlook. I know I've certainly been guilty of just grabbing something quick without really thinking about those rest periods for my body.
It is. And that leads us to our third point, the domino effect, how constant high insulin can make you age faster and harm your health. This chronic state of high insulin and insulin resistance isn't just about a little extra weight. It's a major driver behind many chronic health conditions that can significantly impact our quality of life as we age, essentially accelerating the aging process at a cellular level.
That sounds serious. What kind of health conditions are we talking about? You mentioned Margaret was starting to experience some issues.
Yes, let's look at what she began to experience and what research shows. First, there's the increased risk of type 2 diabetes. This is probably the most well-known consequence. If your cells are insulin resistant and your pancreas can't keep up with the demand, your blood sugar remains chronically high. Then there's weight gain, especially around the abdomen. As we mentioned, insulin is a fat storage hormone. When it's constantly high, it makes it very difficult to lose weight and very easy to gain it, even if you feel like you're not overeating. Margaret was frustrated because she felt she was eating healthy snacks, but the scale wasn't budging, and her waistband was getting tighter.
That's a common complaint, isn't it? The dreaded belly fat. It seems to be one of the first things many of us notice as we get older, and one of the hardest to shift, no matter how good we try to be with our diet.
It is. Constant high insulin also promotes chronic inflammation throughout the body. Inflammation is a natural process, but when it becomes chronic, it's linked to a host of age-related problems, from achy joints and arthritis to more serious conditions like heart disease and even cognitive decline. Margaret had started noticing her joints were stiffer and a general feeling of being puffy.
And it doesn't stop there, I imagine. It sounds like a real cascade of issues stemming from this one root problem of insulin being too high too often.
No, it doesn't. Insulin resistance can contribute to cardiovascular problems by affecting blood pressure and cholesterol levels. It can also impact your energy levels, leading to that persistent fatigue Margaret was struggling with. Because if your cells aren't getting glucose efficiently, you're not getting the fuel you need.
You also mentioned something about cellular repair earlier. That caught my attention because repair and rejuvenation are words we all want to hear more of as we age.
Yes, and this is a crucial point. Perhaps one of the most profound ways constant eating affects aging is by interfering with a natural cellular cleanup process called autophagy. Imagine autophagy as your body's internal housekeeping service. It removes old, damaged cells and cellular components, making way for new, healthy ones. This process is vital for rejuvenation and protection against age-related diseases. Here's the catch. Autophagy works best when insulin levels are low, meaning when you're in a fasted state, not constantly eating. If you're grazing all day, you're essentially switching off this critical repair system. This in itself can contribute to faster aging at a cellular level.
Wow, that's quite a lot to take in. It's almost like our bodies have this incredible built-in system for staying youthful, but our modern eating habits might be unintentionally short-circuiting it. When you see how these things are interconnected, it really highlights why just focusing on what you eat isn't enough. When and how often you eat plays a huge role too.
Exactly. And that brings us to point number 4, the myth of constantly stoking the metabolic fire. One of the main reasons people adopted the 6-meal-a-day plan was the idea that it stokes the metabolic fire, that frequent eating keeps your metabolism revved up, burning more calories. Margaret certainly believed this. She worried that if she didn't eat every few hours, her metabolism would slow down.
I've definitely heard that one many times. So, is it not true? It's one of those pieces of advice that became so ingrained it's hard to question it, but it sounds like the science is pointing us in a different direction now, especially for our age group.
Well, while it's true that digesting food uses some calories, this is called the thermic effect of food, or TEF. The idea that you need to constantly eat to keep this fire burning bright is largely a misunderstanding for most people. Your total daily calorie intake and the type of food you eat, for instance protein, has a higher thermic effect than fats or carbs, have a much bigger impact on your overall metabolism than meal frequency. In fact, constantly elevated insulin can actually hinder your body's ability to burn stored fat.
So it could be counterproductive if you're trying to manage your weight. It's ironic, isn't it? The very thing we thought was helping us burn more could actually be locking away our fat stores.
Precisely. When insulin is high, it signals your body to store fat and prevents it from accessing those fat stores for energy. So, while you might be burning a few extra calories digesting those frequent small meals, you could simultaneously be making it harder for your body to tap into its own fat reserves. Giving your body a rest between meals allows insulin levels to fall, which can then allow fat burning to occur more effectively. For Margaret, this was a revelation. She realized her constant snacking might have been sabotaging her weight management efforts, not helping them.
It's a common worry, isn't it, that not eating for a few hours will make your metabolism stall. But it sounds like it's often not based on the full picture. It makes me think we need to trust our bodies a bit more, that they know how to manage energy without constant input.
That's right. So, this leads us to the most important part, the solution. Our fifth point is the solution: spacing out your meals and enjoying satiating foods. If eating 6 meals a day isn't the answer for many of us over 60, what is? The key lies in creating more time between your eating occasions, allowing your insulin levels to drop, and giving your digestive system a rest. This doesn't mean you have to starve yourself or adopt extreme fasting regimens. It's about shifting towards fewer but more substantial and satiating meals.
That sounds more manageable. How did Margaret start to make that change, and what can our viewers do?
Great question. Here's how Margaret began to make changes, and how you can too. First, gradually reduce your eating frequency. If you're used to eating 6 times a day, don't try to switch to 2 meals overnight. Start by eliminating one snack. Maybe it's the mid-morning snack. See how you feel. Then, after a week or two, try eliminating the mid-afternoon snack. The goal for many might be 3 main meals a day, or for some, even 2 larger balanced meals, like a late breakfast and an early dinner, can work very well, especially if weight loss or better blood sugar control is a goal.
And the type of food must be important too, to keep you full between those meals. Because if you're trying to eat less often, but you're eating foods that leave you hungry an hour later, that's not going to be sustainable, is it? I know I'd struggle with that.
Absolutely critical. Second, focus on whole, unprocessed foods that promote satiety. This is vital. To feel full and satisfied between meals, you need to eat foods that provide lasting energy. This means prioritizing protein: eggs, fish, chicken, lean meats, beans, lentils. Protein is very satiating. Healthy fats: avocado, nuts, seeds, olive oil. Fats slow down digestion and help you feel full. Fiber-rich vegetables and fruits, non-starchy vegetables like broccoli, spinach, bell peppers, and lower sugar fruits like berries. Fiber adds bulk and helps stabilize blood sugar. When Margaret started making her breakfast more substantial with eggs and some spinach instead of just toast, she found she wasn't even hungry mid-morning. Similarly, adding more vegetables and a good portion of chicken or fish to her lunch helped her feel full until the afternoon.
What about if you do still feel you need a snack? Sometimes, especially when you're first making a change, those old habits or hunger pangs can be strong.
That's the third point. Be mindful of your snacks if you still need them. If you genuinely find you need something between meals, make it count. Avoid sugary processed snacks like cookies, chips, or refined carb crackers that will just spike your insulin again. Opt for a small handful of almonds, a few celery sticks with some nut butter, or a hard-boiled egg. But the aim is to eventually need fewer and fewer snacks as your main meals become more satisfying.
And hydration? Does that play a role?
It does. Fourth, hydrate smartly. Often, we mistake thirst for hunger. Between meals, stick to water, herbal teas, or black coffee, or tea, if you drink them. Avoid sugary drinks, fruit juices, and even diet sodas, as some artificial sweeteners can still trigger an insulin response in some people. And finally, and this is a skill that takes practice, learn to listen to your body's true hunger signals. Are you truly physically hungry with a rumbling stomach? Or are you eating out of habit, boredom, or stress? Margaret realized a lot of her snacking was just habit. It was snack time, rather than her body actually needing fuel.
Those are really practical steps. What's one small change you could make to your eating schedule this week? Perhaps it's swapping a processed snack for a whole food, or trying to extend the time between breakfast and lunch by just 30 minutes. I think the key, as Daniel mentioned, is gradual change. It's not about an overnight overhaul, but small, consistent steps. Every little bit can help.
Beautifully put. This shift isn't about deprivation. It's about nourishing your body more intelligently and giving it the rest it needs to function optimally. When Margaret made these changes, she not only started to see the numbers on the scale go down, but she reported feeling so much more energetic throughout the day, and even her joint stiffness began to improve. Her doctor was very pleased with her follow-up blood tests too.
That's so encouraging. It's really empowering to realize that by adjusting when and how we eat, we can have such a profound impact on our health and how we feel, especially as we navigate our later years.
It truly is. The notion that we need to constantly top up with food is, for many, a myth that needs debunking. Instead, allowing our body's natural periods of rest from digestion can unlock a new level of vitality. Think about it. Our ancestors certainly weren't eating 6 carefully portioned meals a day. They experienced natural periods of fasting between larger, less frequent meals, and their bodies were adapted to that. In our modern world of constant food availability, we've almost forgotten that our bodies are incredibly well equipped to go without food for a period, and in fact, can thrive on it.
So, to sum up for everyone watching, it feels like the main takeaway is that giving our bodies a proper break from eating is just as important as what we eat, especially for managing insulin and, ultimately, for healthier aging.
Certainly. In essence, the old advice of eating 6 small meals a day can, for many seniors, lead to constantly elevated insulin. This hidden insulin trap can contribute to insulin resistance, weight gain, chronic inflammation, an increased risk of type 2 diabetes, and may even hinder your body's natural cellular repair processes, effectively making you age faster.
And the solution is to shift towards fewer, more satisfying meals. It's about quality over quantity, and timing too, it seems.
Exactly. By shifting to fewer, more satisfying meals, rich in protein, healthy fats, and fiber, you allow your insulin levels to fall, enabling your body to tap into stored fat for energy and promoting better overall health and vitality. Margaret's story shows us it's possible. She never imagined the healthy habit she'd followed for years was part of the problem. But once she understood the role of insulin and started making those adjustments, focusing on 3 satisfying meals, cutting out the constant snacking, and choosing whole foods, she felt, as she put it, reborn. She had more energy, her thinking felt clearer, and she finally started to lose that stubborn weight.
It's a powerful reminder that while aging is inevitable, how we age and how vibrant we feel is significantly influenced by the choices we make every day. And it's never too late to make these small, manageable adjustments that can lead to big improvements in quality of life and long-term health. It's not about perfection, is it? It's about progress and understanding our own bodies better, and perhaps also being a little kinder to ourselves as we learn and adapt these new approaches.
Well said. And of course, it's always important to remember, especially when making changes to your diet or managing any health condition, to discuss these changes with your doctor or a qualified healthcare professional. They can help you make choices that are safe and appropriate for your individual health needs.
That's a vital reminder. It's all about informed choices, isn't it? Understanding the why behind the advice, and then working with professionals to see how it best fits our individual situations. Now, it's over to our viewers to reflect and perhaps take action. What part of this discussion about frequent eating and insulin resonated most with you? Is the idea of reducing meal frequency something you'd consider, or perhaps you've already made this change and seen benefits?
We'd love to hear your experiences and any tips you might have in the comments below. Sharing our journeys can inspire and help others. If this video gave you some food for thought, or even an aha moment, please hit that like button and share it with friends or family members who you think might find it useful. And remember to subscribe for more practical tips and insights for living your best, healthiest life after 60.
Thank you for joining us today.
Remember, you have so much power to influence your health and well-being, often through simple, informed choices. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Stay healthy, and perhaps give your insulin a well-deserved break.